Greetings, imagination connoisseurs. It is I, the notorious RMB, and I am not seeing any audio from here. That's interesting. I don't know why I'm not seeing audio. Are you seeing audio? Can anybody hear me? Audio is good. Oh, okay. Well, great. Great. If the audio is good, fantastic. Thank you for being here. I'm not seeing my indicator light up, and it makes me, I always have weird little audio glitches. But all of you imagination connoisseurs, you members of the Post-Geek Singularity community, first of all, thank you for being here. Today is, of course, International Women's Day. And what better way to celebrate International Women's Day than for all of you to go out and see Captain Marvel in the theater? I am going tonight. I'm very excited. I am going to the Cinerama Theater tonight, I think at 8, to see the movie. And I'm very, very excited to do so. And to start this International Women's Day celebration, I wanted to read something from a friend of mine. Many of you might know Ashley V. Robinson. She's appeared with me on Heroes, along with her husband, Jason Inman. Jason Inman is a vet, and he also every year runs a drive to get comic books to our men and women at arms. And they are two of my favorite people in the world. And I just wanted to bring to attention some of their work. They created their own comic series, Jupiter Jet. And it's fantastic. It's a great comic series. It is collected. You can get Jupiter Jet at Amazon, and I highly recommend it. Well, Ashley wrote me something that I thought was really interesting, and I thought it was appropriate because it sort of falls in line with what I have always been talking about here. Ashley is from Canada. She's a Canadian citizen. She married an American. And Jason, and she is working on getting her American citizenship. And she had sort of a unique, novel way to do that. She writes to me and she says she's coming up on the last most section of my American citizenship. It's a pretty expensive undertaking that I really can't afford. But rather than doing something like a GoFundMe where I stand with my hand open, she is creating a one-shot first issue of a comic book series she's been developing called Aurora and the Eagle, which is a very cool idea. And she asked if I would feature the Kickstarter, which will be at www.auroraandtheeagle.com. And she asked if I would have her on Robservations, which I'm going to do. Now, I don't know if her Kickstarter is up, but instead of to fund this, she's actually doing, if you've read Jupiter Jet, if you've seen Jupiter Jet, it's a wonderful, wonderful comic book series. I love it. And I love the idea that in order to fund her American citizenship, she's creating a new comic series. And she says it stars a Canadian superhero named Aurora, who has the power of the Northern Lights. She's starting out in her superhero career and gets recruited by the Eagle, an American superhero, to be Canada's representative on the Unity League. Think the Justice League meets the United Nations. Each member comes from a different country. Their powers represent their roots, and the ultimate goal is to build a global village. The first issue will deal with their meeting and the beginning of Aurora's training. Well, color me in. That sounds good to me. I mean, I think the world needs another Canadian superhero team after Alpha Flight. And it's being drawn by Emmanuel, I can't pronounce the name, Shatner from Queen Street, who's an outstanding Canadian lady artist. In addition, she's populated the rest of her team with amazing international artists, which is great. I think this is fantastic. But anyway, she asked me, normally I wouldn't just do commercials for my friends. But what I do like to do is commercials for people whose work I admire already. Just because you've done something, I've got to be impressed by it. I've been impressed by Ashley over the years. I've really liked Jupiter Jet. So I wanted to point that out. Plus, it's International Women's Day. And as we all know, Pearl the xenomorph, she's now a lady. She's become a lady, even though xenomorphs are probably genderless. I don't care. Pearl's a lady. She was named by you guys out there, and I thought it would be cool to talk about Ashley Robinson's upcoming comic and her old comic, Jupiter Jet, which you can still get at Amazon because it's awesome, and it's International Women's Day, and she's trying to do something internationally, migrate, become a citizen of America, so why not? I thought it'd be a good thing to start with. Now, back to the topics at hand. I've got a few interesting emails, and these emails, I have to say, they're so flattering. They're beginning to be a little self-serving. but I think that they are interesting. Now, this comes from Chris Hanna. And he wrote this in 2 parts, and I'm going to read the first part of it because the second part is I want to save for another conversation. Hi, Rob. I wanted to write to you as I'm across the pond in England and haven't yet been able to join in a live chat to pile the positive praise on you or join in the discussion, which is something I tend to forget. I forget that most people watch these chats not live, and that, which is great. But the only people I'm really talking to sometimes are my regulars, you, the Post-Geek Singularity community. I first decided to drop you an email a couple weeks back when you were saying something along the lines of whether you had enough to offer sitting in front of a camera on your own talking. Alas, it has taken me this long to get around to it. Truthfully, it was half written since that day. I'm not usually a YouTube kind of guy. I watched the rather interesting Midnight's Edge video talking about the rights issue around all recent Star Trek. Then a day or two later, that follow-up Midnight's Edge video came up that featured you. The second video of theirs I had watched, but more relevant than the first I had heard of you. So at least I thought at the time. But as I later discovered, I have seen and possessed a lot of your work. I really enjoyed listening to you on that video. I don't mean in some sadistic pleasure of enjoying what you were saying about Discovery. You were knowledgeable, informative, you spoke well, and your points were clear and backed up. You spoke negatively without being malicious. I was impressed. You have a rare gift for speaking. So I went to your channel and watched another video of yours. I forgot what that particular video was about, but by the end I had decided to click the follow button. A rare thing for me, very rare. I have watched every Robservations chat since, and I don't even read comics or collect action figures. The only comics I had growing up were the Thunderbirds. I grew up in the 80s. But I do share your love for science fiction, movies, and novels. Your enthusiasm is palpable. Your openness on your hobbies, many have felt the need to hide, is refreshing. Your diplomacy when you ask or answer questions is admirable. The message you give about respecting others is, well, suffice to say, I wish it was more common. It seems society is sadly regressing in that regard. It's like I've come across a kindred spirit. I don't have your gift for talking, but I think we have tried to live our lives in similar ways when it comes to how we treat others. I feel like I could talk to you over a beer for hours about the mostly silly or the most serious of topics without either of us taking differing opinions to heart. After each of your videos, I find myself having something I wish I could add to the topic. Keep up the good work. I hope your channel works out for you, and more importantly, your behind the camera works out better. Chris. Well, Chris, again, thank you for this nice, thoughtful letter that is full of praise. But I'm just happy to know, that people there across the pond are watching these, and it is always nice to hear. So thank you for that. And maybe one day, listen, man, I'm coming to England. I'm coming to England to see Bond 25. I'm going to see it at the Odeon Theatre in Leicester Square in London. We're all invited. Let's make a day of it. If we can coordinate. I flew to London to see Skyfall when it opened, and I want to do so for Bond 25. It's the 25th official Bond film. We should just buy out the theater. All of us, who's ever in the UK or anywhere in Europe, just migrate there and we'll all go. So yeah. Here's another message, and this one comes from Daniel Mann. He said I could use his full name. Hey, Rob. First off, I'd like to say that I'm a big fan of yours, and I truly believe you're a voice for good and a voice that needs to be heard. Unless, of course, you're reading my tweets about Star Trek Discovery last night. It is nice to know that even when you think the world is going to shit, there's someone like you to stay hopeful for. So I'd like to talk about passion today and why I believe it's the most important thing to everyone. I found it very interesting to hear that you weren't bullied for your passions, as I personally and sadly were bullied for mine. It was truly a struggle to maintain my own passions when no one else around had nowhere near similar passions, and I often sought to compromise by trying to be passionate about the other kids' passions. However, there's trying to be passionate about something, and there's being passionate about something. Today, the fact that I was able to maintain my passions is the most rewarding thing I can think of. These are passions that were not just a place to escape to, but also a place that meant I am the person I am today, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. So I really want to plead to anyone listening to this, keep your passions, no matter what. It doesn't matter what other people think of your favorite music, movies, etc. What matters is that you can enjoy them. So thank you for making a place where we can share our passions together, Rob. And I hope that we can give some confidence into that we can move in the right direction. So I'd like to sign off with a quote from one of my favorite songs, Invincible by Muse. I'm a huge Muse fan, by the way. I saw them live. As I feel it represents exactly what I wanted to send with this message. Don't be afraid what your mind conceals. You should make a stand up for what you believe. And tonight we can truly say, together, we are invincible. Feel free to say my name on the show and keep up the good work. Cheers, Daniel. Hey, man, if nothing else, if this is a place where you feel you can share your passions, then I've done my job. That's what we're doing here. It's fun. I mean, I wish I'd known I was going to have this much fun 5 years ago doing these chats, because it's great, and it's great sharing all of our passions. And today, Captain Marvel's opening. I'm passionate about the MCU. I'm very happy we get to see MCU, a new MCU movie, and I can't wait to see Captain Marvel on the big screen. I certainly can't wait to see Goose the Flurkin, because Goose is going to go full Flurkin. Now, I don't know if Goose is going to go full Flurkin, but I would assume so. And if you know anything about the Captain Marvel character, you know that a Flurkin is a cosmic being that takes the form of a house cat. But a Flurkin isn't a house cat. So I assume in the comic, Captain Marvel's Flurkin, her cat, is named Chewie. And I think for obvious reasons, they changed its name to Goose, as we've said before, honoring Top Gun. Now, International Women's Day, I know that how Wade Wilson, Deadpool himself, celebrates it. And that's not a bad way to go if you have the right partner. But anyway, I think it's important to remember. I mean, as my friend Darren Dockerman just recently said to me, meaning recently about 15 minutes ago, he said every day he celebrates International Women's Day, and I tend to feel that way myself. And I think it's great. I mean, women are the reason why we're all here anyway. I don't understand why anybody wouldn't celebrate women and all they represent every single day. So that's a good thing. Now, I am going to talk about Star Trek Discovery in a chat this weekend, but I have many, many thoughts, and not many of them are good. And I don't want to harsh everyone's mellow today, because I don't like it when people harsh my mellow on a fabulous Friday where so many good things are happening. So I think today I'll just basically answer your questions, make this an open mic sort of a thing, and celebrate the syndicates, celebrate the love, celebrate whatever you want to celebrate as far as International Women's Day is concerned. I also am going to call my mom and tell her how great she is. My mom's going to be 80 on April 11th. Amazing. She's an amazing lady. Also, by the way, as you'll notice, if you're a subscriber to mine, and if you're not, why aren't you? If you subscribe to the Burnettwork, I've been putting up a lot of I put up the actual videos. I migrated them from another channel where Robservations episode 21, I believe, I spoke about meeting my biological sister for the first time when I was 21 years old, or 29 years old, pardon me. Conversation number 21, Robservations 21. But I was 29 when I met her, and I combined the two videos. They're not the greatest quality in the world, so I apologize for the quality. But I met her in 1996 for the first time, and on Robservations, on my Burnettwork, on my Burnettwork channel on YouTube, I just put up the video of us meeting. It's actually two videos from local Hawaii television news, nightly news, of our first meeting. So if you listen to that chat about meeting my biological sister for the first time, which, by the way, I didn't even know she existed until I was 29, until she found me. She's 14 months younger than I am. I didn't know she existed. So you can watch that video. And I found some old SF Vortex. I used to be a semi-regular, well, I guess a regular guest on a sci-fi channel show from the mid-90s called SF Vortex that was hosted by Blind Date's Roger Lodge. And it was a news magazine show about science fiction, fantasy, and genre material. And they would have a segment at the end called The War Room, where they had people discuss and debate issues of the day. And I put there's 2 videos now up on the Burnettwork. One, I was in the war room with Anthony Ferrante, the director of Sharknado, all the Sharknado movies. He used to have his own magazine that he wrote for, and he and I talk about David Cronenberg's Crash. And then I also put up a clip of the war room where Flash executive producer and writer Eric Wallace, a good friend of mine, Eric Wallace and I are discussing the Spawn feature film with Mark A.Z. DePay, the director of that movie. And you can watch it. We're really kind of hard on him. After all, it was called The War Room. So, and I'm going to find more. I was actually in the war room on SF Vortex with Stan Lee. So I'm trying to find that tape. And if I can find it, I will also put that up on the Burnettwork. So I'm putting up I'm going old school into my past and putting up material that I think is relevant you guys might enjoy. So check those out. And they're up now. They're kind of fun. But I really do. I feel guilty about how we treated Mark A.Z. DePay, the director of Spawn. So I'm tired. I'm sorry, Mark, if I can apologize. I was a punk and it wasn't nice. So I apologize. Anyway, Mark Buddha asks, I'm not trying to break into the film industry, but your comments on the John Campea show gave me a new mantra for my goals. Work begets work. Mark, I mean that sincerely. I mean, I have found that in my own career, work has always begat more work. You never know where it's going to come from either. You never know what quarter. I mean, here's a story. I don't know if I've told this story before, but currently I am producing and editing a movie called Tango Shalom. It's a feature film. I like to call it. I've talked about it often on the show. It is a indie Jewish spiritual quest, family dance comedy fable. We're pioneering a genre there with Tango Shalom. But I'll tell you the story of how did I get this job editing Tango Shalom, because it's sort of interesting. So I went to visit my college roommate and old friend, Todd Stanley, who was representing an author who wrote a book about the Seattle rock scene and his own heroin addiction. Now Todd has done many things in his life, but so he's representing this author, and he was staying at the Roosevelt Hotel in Hollywood. So I just went to visit with him, and we were just shooting the shit at the bar, and then I went outside to wait for my car at the valet, and we were still talking, and this woman turns that I'd never met, and at that night, coincidentally, there was an AFM, an American Film Market event at the Roosevelt Hotel in Hollywood. This woman turns and she's asking us if she's not from here. She's from New York, but she was here for the AFM, and we're just talking, and then she eventually gets around to saying, yeah, she starred in this movie, Tango Shalom. And they'd shot it, but they didn't have anyone to cut the film. And I said, well, I'm a film editor, and I had just finished editing 2 feature films. I had done a movie called Paradox that you can see on Netflix, and I had finished a Lifetime movie called I Know Where Lizzie Is that was directed by Tales from the Hood producer director Darren Scott, who's a good friend of mine. And he just had Tales from the Hood 2 drop. That's also on Netflix. So I'd edited this Lifetime movie for him, and we just sort of finished that. And she said, oh, really? Well, maybe you would like to talk to the director about editing Tango Shalom. And I'm like, okay, and sure. And I got his number. I didn't know him, Gabe Bologna. And then I kind of looked him up. He'd made other movies. He was on the IMDb, and his father was actor Joseph Bologna. And Tango Shalom had an IMDb page, and we ended up meeting for lunch, and we really, really hit it off. And then he told me a little bit about the movie. There's a lot of difficulty surrounding Tango Shalom because it was shot for such a low budget. And there's a lot more than just editorial that needed to be looked after. And he said to me after we met, I mean, clearly we were 2 peas in a pod. And he's like, I'd love you to edit my film. And I told him, I said, well, maybe you should watch like Paradox. It's on Netflix. I mean, it's really, really low budget, but I'm proud of my work as the editor on the film. Specifically the last 20 minutes, how we're intercutting through different time periods and things like that. So he watched it and he liked me, and he'd gone back and looked at my IMDb, and he said, okay, we're off to the races. And then over the course, we've been working on this movie together for 3 years on and off. It is truly an indie film. And because of my contributions, they promoted me to a producer on the film, which is terrific because basically I've been the custodian of this movie for the last 3 years. And it's on this computer that I'm talking to you right now. And we are now moving into, I get to finally give the movie away to the color timer, color grader, and the sound designers and sound mixers. They're going to take it away, and I'm going to be overseeing the final end of post-production on the film, and I'm incredibly excited about that. And I'm going to document this live. I'll be doing more live chats, more live events as we take the film through post, and you'll be able to see that process, because I know a lot of people are interested in that process, and you'll get to see the color grading and you'll get to see the sound mixing as it's happening. So that's something that I can offer on here, the Burnettwork, and on these chats or observations that I think are unique, that not a lot of people who are being YouTubers on a daily basis can offer. So that's interesting. But that story, work begets work. You never know. Like I had, when I met this woman, I actually had done editing, and I had been cutting movies and television shows and documentaries for 20 years and more than that even. And I had the goods to back it up, but you just never know. You never know. But if you don't have the work, then nothing will happen. But you never know when you send something. I think I've told this story before, but I got a job. I made a tape, a Star Trek montage back in 1996. I did it for the Sci-Fi Universe Awards, the second annual Universe Awards that were at the El Rey Theater in Los Angeles. And just to honor Star Trek, I did it in a day. It was like a 5-minute video that was cut to a piece of John Williams music off the Nixon soundtrack called The 60s, The Tumultuous Decade. And I always thought, wow, I'd put Star Trek images to that. Well, that tape, people loved that tape, and they saw it, and I got letters, and I sent tapes out. Like 6 months later, I got a call from Landmark Entertainment, the company that's building the $80 million Star Trek experience, and they needed somebody to edit Star Trek material. And they had got a copy of this tape, this 5-minute montage that I'd sent out, and people kept asking me for. It wasn't online. There was no YouTube back then, and somehow they got a copy of this tape, and I got called in, and I got the job because of it. So you just never know. When you've created things like here, Ashley V. Robinson has asked me to promote her Kickstarter because she wants to finish her American citizenship, and it's expensive, everything she has to do. And again, she had done this comic. I mean, we worked together on Collider Heroes. She'd done this comic with her husband, Jupiter Jet, which is really cool. Now she's doing another comic. And here I can talk about it for International Women's Day, because I think it's kind of neat that, I mean, she's involving all kinds of international talent to create this, and she's using it to immigrate to America to get her citizenship, which I think is all cool, So that's what I mean. Work begets work, and I am a big proponent of that. And you just never know where your work is going to take you. So I do know that your work won't take you anywhere if if you don't do it. Now, Deadpool, my favorite Chinese Deadpool, is here. And someone told me what your actual name was, and I forgot it now. I'll have to write it down. Saw Captain Marvel today. Loved it. The story is surprising. Best Marvel fanfare before the movie. I've heard there's something cool that happens. Also, can't wait for Shazam due to the positive reaction. Right there with you. For those of you who don't know, Shazam did screen for critics and the online genre pundits, and it apparently went over like gangbusters. Warner Brothers dropped the social media embargo a month before the film opens, which is always a great sign. So I'm deliriously excited for Shazam. I can't wait. I've always loved Shazam. I've loved the character. I think I told you guys, I don't know if I told you on this, but there was one of my favorite Superman comics of the 70s is when he took on Captain Thunder, which was a thinly veiled version of Shazam, or of Captain Marvel at the time. It's great. I've always loved the character. I had the Mego action figure of Shazam, and I love the show on Saturday mornings. I thought it was great. So I can't believe we're getting it's so wacky that we're getting a Captain Marvel and a Shazam movie within a month of each other. the history of the characters is really interesting, and everybody should look into that because it is pretty interesting. But it's amazing. And the history of Captain Marvel in the Marvel universe is very interesting as well. Aurier says, I dug Captain Marvel. For me, it's as good as Ant-Man 2 and Doctor Strange. You know what? That's great to hear. I think that's great to hear because everybody expects these Marvel movies to like change their lives, but that's what Infinity War's for. That's what Endgame's for. But I loved Ant-Man. I loved Ant-Man and the Wasp. I love Doctor Strange, and that's exactly what I want out of an origin movie. That's what Gilbert apparently wants out of an origin movie too. I'll have to see it a second time though, because my friend was high as a kite during the movie and wouldn't stop talking. I would have shot your friend in the face. Not really. When people are talking in movies, I like to whisper in my best Clint Eastwood voice, if you don't shut up, I'm going to slit your throat, or something to that effect. I've actually done that a couple times. It works. But anyway, I'm glad that Captain Marvel is good, and it looks great. I mean, it looks like it's a lot of fun. I can't wait to see it. I think it's terrific. I hope it makes a buttload of money, and I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. Bunyan Snipe says, by the way, Bunyan Snipe is a Patreon supporter. Thank you for that. For those of you who don't know, on my Patreon, first of all, I thank you to everybody who supports me on Patreon. I've been dropping exclusive videos of my friend Greg Smith's building. He is building a full-size Imperial probe droid from The Empire Strikes Back, which he has affectionately named Priscilla, Queen of the Glacier. And he is building it for the Emerald City Comic Con, where she will make her grand entrance. But he's been sending me these little videos, and I've been dropping these videos exclusively for my patrons to see first. I just dropped one today where detailing with the electronics that go into Priscilla's head. And so that's kind of cool. And I'm going to be putting more videos like that, more exclusive stuff on my Patreon page. And then I'll eventually, before anybody bitches and complains, I will make those videos. I usually give a 2-week advance look for my patrons, and then I make them go live on my YouTube page. So there'll be more of those. I'm actually going to be sad when Greg stops with them because I've been digging them. But I think I'm going to start next. As many of you know, I'm going to start building a 5-foot flying model rocket of a Saturn V from Sirius Rocketry. If you go to SiriusRocketry.com, tell David Miller there that I sent you. Buy a kit. It's like $300 or something. I bought it 8 years ago from him, and now I'm going to finally build it. I started building, but I screwed up the engine block, and he sent me the parts I needed to fix it. But I'm going to do it, and I'm going to make videos and probably drop them on the Patreon page. Or if you guys want, we can build it together. I'll just start a live stream. I'll just sit here and talk while I build my Saturn V. So Bunyan Snipe saw Captain Marvel, and it was a lot of fun. So Bunyan, thank you for that, and thanks for your continued support. And by the way, your letters. I have been getting your letters that you've been sending me via Patreon, and thank you for that. Kaleda said, had a great time at Captain Marvel. Boat Trek says, hope it makes 1 billion. Kaleda said, I drove 72 miles to see it in IMAX last night. All right. That's awesome. I'm glad you liked it. That's pretty fantastic. Brian Eng says, after seeing Captain Marvel, I can never watch the MCU in release order again. That's really interesting because, I have all my Blu-rays and now 4Ks. Captain Marvel on 4K. What's up, First Avenger? But I have them in release order. But I think you might be right. I think I'm going to have to rejigger my Marvel Cinematic Universe films on my shelf to put them in the order the order that they appear as far as the story is concerned. I mean, I guess it puts the post-credit scenes a bit out of whack, but still kind of interesting. Be Easy says Captain Marvel was exciting. Yeah, this is great, you guys. Dale M says, saw Captain Marvel last night. Rob, I cannot wait to hear your thoughts on it. Will you give your thoughts before you and Campy do your spoiler review? John Campy and I are going to do our spoiler review on Sunday. So that's when it's going to be up. We were going to do it on Monday, but we're going to do it on Sunday. Botrek says, I walked out of Captain Marvel thoroughly entertained. It was funnier than I thought it would be, too. Well, that's good. Silent Thriller saw it. Silent Thriller says, saw it, too. Wasn't as impressed. To be fair, Marvel has been going downhill since Ragnarok. See, I disagree. I loved Thor Ragnarok. I thought Ragnarok was great, and I really liked Ant-Man and the Wasp as well. But I mean, I can understand because, you know, we're getting an Infinity War and then you get Endgame. So, but I understand, you know, it doesn't have to work for everybody. That's good. That's why we are here at the Post-Geek Singularity community that we have here, because you imagination connoisseurs are in fact connoisseurs. So you're not just going to devour everything shoved down your pie holes because it's genre related. You know, we're discerning here. We're discerning. I mean, when I see that, as Darren Doctorman pointed out, that say, for instance, you were doing a Star Trek show and wanted to bring back the Telosians. The whole point of the Telosian society is their physical bodies are small and decrepit. That's why their mental powers have been so augmented. So you'd want kind of slight people, like, you know, women played the Telosians. Meg Wiley was famously the lead Telosian in The Cage and later The Menagerie. But, you know, I guess modern Star Trek can't be bothered to really understand what the Telosians are supposed to be. So you cast a strapping man to play the lead Telosian. Oh, wait a minute. We weren't going to talk about this. Anyway. So I won't. Jeff T says, just got back from seeing Captain Marvel and I loved it. Brie Larson was great. And I love what a badass the character is. Really enjoyed it. It's great to hear these things. I mean, I'm really excited to hear these things. Stubble McShave is here. Stubble, how you doing, buddy? The Lord of the Rings series have great potential. The creation of the rings, the rise of Sauron, the fall of Numenor, Elrond's early history, and much, much more. For those who don't know what Stubble McShave is talking about, Amazon has released details about what the Lord of the Rings series is going to be. And it now we know it takes place in the Second Age, which is thousands of years, I think a little less than 3,000 years before the events of Lord of the Rings. And we actually saw the culmination of the Second Age at the beginning of Fellowship of the Ring, where we see the ring cut off the hand of Sauron. And what this series is going to deal with is the rise of the ring race, the creation of the One Ring and all of the other rings. And I think that's a great way to go. Like Stubble says here, the creation of the rings, the rise of Sauron, the fall of Numenor, Elrond's early history, and much, much more. Color me stoked for this, people. I mean, prequels have been really sort of hit and miss. As I said, Better Call Saul's a really good prequel. Rogue One was a pretty good prequel, but for the most part, there's that other Star Trek show that was a prequel that isn't Enterprise, but I'm going to calm down about that. But this sounds really interesting. And of course, I remember back in 1977, I want to say it was for my birthday, but it might have been for the holidays or something. I got the Silmarillion. The Silmarillion, of course, Christopher Tolkien, J.R.R. Tolkien's son, put together the Silmarillion from all of Tolkien's world-building notes, and I loved the Silmarillion. I mean, some people thought it was like reading paint, the equivalent of watching paint dry on the page, but I loved it. I thought the Silmarillion was great because, you know, I'm one of those like, tell me more backstory. And the idea that the Second Age is what this show is going to delve into, it's great because it's far enough away. Like the Game of Thrones prequels, the same thing. It's far enough away from the story that we're watching, and it is culminating up to an apocalyptic battle. I can't wait to see all the political shenanigans and the machinations of how the dwarves and the elves and the world of men and how they have to work all that out to defeat Sauron the first time. And I think it's going to be dope. I'm really interested in it. So great. Celadon Sound is here. Hello, Celadon. How are you? I love that. He says, I love Captain Marvel. My girlfriend and I went today. She had a grin on her face the whole time, and I had a blast. Skrulls are surprisingly standout. Okay, this is what I'm talking about, people. This is great to hear. I mean, for all of the vitriol and people talking about, it's not as good as whatever. I mean, everybody who's here had a good time because that's what you're supposed to have, a good time. It's not going to change your life. It's just a movie. But if you're having a good time and it's fun, I mean, we get to see the Star Force. We get to see other characters. I'm sure there's 2 post-credit scenes I've heard, and they're supposed to be great. I can't wait. I'm so excited. It's great to hear that you and your girlfriend liked it. Look, I think this movie is going to be much bigger than people originally thought because I think, as I've been saying on the John Campea show, the female audience and the desire to see this amongst the non-genre fan film pundit community people, I think mothers and daughters are primed to go see this. I think it's going to do huge business. So it's good to hear that. Topher Rocks asks, well, this is a change of pace. Good afternoon, Rob. Thoughts on American Psycho? I think Bale's performance is one of the best of all time. Seeing Captain Marvel on Sunday, can't wait. Well, first of all, I'm a huge Bret Easton Ellis fan. I devoured his books. The first time I read Less Than Zero in hardcover, I read it 4 times in a row. It was like this horror novel like none other. It was crazy. And of course, I read American Psycho the moment it came out. My favorite book, by the way, of his is Glamorama. If you haven't read Glamorama, it's an experience. Glamorama is great. Where's that movie? Fashion models as terrorists. I mean, come on. Glamorama is great. I love the movie. I'm still Bale's performance is so good in that film. He's so good. And I want to look like, I often think to myself, if I decide to work out, and drop these 40 or 50 pounds and get back down to how I looked in those SF Vortex videos, and I looked pretty back then, I would want to follow Christian Bale's workout regimen and look like him. That would be the goal, to look like him in that movie, because what a beautiful man he is in that film. And he has great facial products. Skin products. David Cabrera is here. David says, saw Captain Marvel with my kids on AMC Dolby. Wow, that's the way to watch a movie. We all loved it. Brie is awesome. Really good villain. Really solid. This is what I'm talking about. I think Captain Marvel is going to be a monster hit. Remember, we do our genre online pundit space is an echo chamber full of people that the vitriol does not spill out into the real world. And I think, David, you and your family's experience with Captain Marvel is what we're going to see a lot more of. I think a lot of people are going to dig this movie. I think it's great. And I haven't seen it. I'm seeing it tonight at 8:00. I'm really looking forward to it. And I think that your experience with your family is going to be the experience most people are going to have with the movie. So that's really cool. Bunyan Snipe says, should we all dress as Bond characters? Yes, sir. Wouldn't it be cool? I didn't do this last time because it was like November. It was October. I think Skyfall opened in October in the UK, and it was cold. But man, I would love to rock a tux. Like, go to London, we'll all dress up and go see Bond 25, whatever it's called. I hear it's not called Shatterhand. Barbara Broccoli is shooting down those rumors. But yes, we should all do that. It would be great. Midnight's Edge After Dark is here. Hello, Midnight's Edge. Man, I'll tell you, I have fun doing these Midnight's Edge podcasts and being on their videos, and I've gotten a lot of subscribers because of them. But man, people are I had to go look up. They get mad at the Midnight's Edge guys and girls. I love those guys. I don't know what's the problem, but I was accused. Somebody decided to not follow the Burnettwork anymore because they said I was part of the hashtag Kick Vic Brigade. I didn't even know what that was. I had to find out. I guess it's about Vic Mignogna. I have really nothing to say about Vic Mignogna. I did like Star Trek Continues. I thought they did a good job. I met him once. I joked that we should both join a Flock of Seagulls cover band because of our hair, which he didn't think was very funny. And then I criticized his Mirror Universe episode. So that was my only dealings with him. But Kal-El says, probably won't go to see Captain Marvel again. I think once was enough, but the 3D was actually really cool. That's good, because you know me, I love my 3D Blu-ray discs. Victor Acosta, over or under 50% that Shazam can break 900 million. Well, you know what? That would be worldwide. I think there's now a possibility it could. Here's the thing, though. Humor doesn't always translate. Humor is very colloquial, and I don't know if the humor would translate to, say, giant markets like China. But, if the action's good, I could see that movie making $1 billion. Look, people didn't think Aquaman was going to. John Campea didn't think it was going to make $1 billion, and it did. I think people are primed. I think Captain Marvel, Shazam, like Captain Marvel, is a 4-quadrant film. It's good for everyone. So I think that, why not? I think it could be great. I think it absolutely could. So I'll take the over, maybe. Yellow Flash says, Rob, what do you think the problems were with Bond 24 Inspector? One, that it was boring. I mean, and Blofeld himself. I, I mean, Bond blew up his entire base with one gunshot. It was, and at the end, they're having this chase on the Thames, and the Bond is shooting at Blofeld's helicopter, and it crashes with his Walther PPK. Why didn't they just fly higher? Spectre is a beautiful looking movie that just was a lackluster script, and really was disappointed by that movie. Although the opening in Mexico is one of my favorite Bond openings. It's great. Love it. Learning Disabled Spock, my new favorite live stream. Don't tell nobody. Well, okay. Learning Disabled Spock. Yeah, I don't like that about they. You know what? The people writing Discovery really don't have any understanding or conception of what Spock is supposed to be. Now, you're telling me this rift between Spock and Burnham was because Burnham called him a half-breed on purpose to soften the blow. It was. No, I'm not going to talk about that. Koba's here. I love Koba. Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room. That's from Dr. Strangelove, one of my favorites. Miss Stanley Kubrick is my favorite director, and Dr. Strangelove is one of the greatest movies of all time. Brian Eng says, could the owner of the SF Vortex footage give you a hard time for posting it? Probably. I mean, I don't own the copyright to SF Vortex, but have you ever seen those episodes? They were a news magazine, so they were a weekly news magazine, topical. So once they aired, they had no value beyond the show. But you know, the ones I've posted are from 96 and 97, and the War Room segments. I don't know. I mean, maybe if there's a copyright strike against me, I would hope not. I mean, I really love the people that produce the show, and my good friend Lisa Reen, who is one of the producers, I don't think she would mind. I think they would think it was cool that somebody even preserved those episodes. I just have tapes of the episodes I was in and some of the episodes Mark Altman was in. And people seem to like them because it's kind of a slice of history. And I can look back at myself almost half a century ago and look at how pretty I was as a young man. It's funny. Everyone's like, oh, you were so handsome back then. I'm like, oh, man, I guess not anymore. Time marches on, right? Victor Costa says, so Rob, I got to know when you and Bob Iger get together for your weekly brainstorming sessions, whose name always comes up when you're thinking about casting Mark Spector. Oh, I'll never tell. My meetings with Bob Iger are closed door, man. I had to sign NDAs. I can't even get within 500 yards of the Disney headquarters without, breaking into a sweat. Teddy Mopar says, wishing your mom a happy birthday, Rob. What a month to be turning 80. And I mean, can you believe it? Can you believe that the Battle of Winterfell falls on the same weekend that Avengers Endgame opens? Oh my God. We got Shazam, we got Hellboy, we got Game of Thrones, we got Avengers again. I mean, what a great month. What a great month. Stubble McShave says, Rob, saw on the Campia show when you displayed your deep musical knowledge, cough, Sound of Music, cough. Yeah, I know. You know what? As people know, I haven't seen Sound of Music. I know. It's terrifying. I haven't. I can't tell a lie. Celadon Sound says, watch Captain Marvel at the BFI IMAX, the largest screen in the UK, going again at 9 a.m. tomorrow, and then again on Sunday. Endgame trailer looked fire in IMAX ratio. That is awesome. That is terrific. Yes, I'm in. Celadon Sound says, I don't go into any movie with cynicism. What's the point in paying for a ticket if you aren't going to invest? There's so much to like in Captain Marvel. I feel the same way, dude. I never, movies are so hard to make. Why would you hope any of them fail? And even if I'm disappointed by a movie, I try and, like Luke finding the good in Vader, I try and find the good in movies. I mean, it's important. You got to look for the good. Zach Losel. Shalom, Rob. Shalom to you. Shalom, Rob. Saw Captain Marvel last night, and my friend, as you say, we truly live in wonderful times. What an incredible entry into the MCU. I loved Brie as Carol Danvers. The movie was excellent. You know what? This resounding, all you guys talking about how good it is, I love hearing that. I mean, you're a cross section of the audience here. What you're saying about the film is important. And I think it's terrific that you guys and girls are loving the film. What a great thing. David Cabrera says, seeing it again on Saturday night with a group of film fans and Sunday with my wife. It's an all Captain Marvel weekend for me for Women's History Month. Well, that's cool, dude. I mean, how cool is it that we're doing that? It's for Women's History Month. It's great. For International Women's History Month. Yes. I think it's great. It's fantastic. It's great that we're getting the movie. So I think that's fantastic. Prepper James says, I don't understand why they showed the cage footage on Star Trek Discovery, since Star Trek Discovery is trying to distance itself from original canon. Honestly, I didn't know what the point of that was. For those of you who don't know, yesterday's episode of Discovery was a direct sequel to The Cage or The Menagerie. They go back to Talos 4, which... and I don't think that the decisions that they should have been making they didn't make the right decisions when it came to that. It was there's so many weird things in that episode, but they bring back Vina, they bring back the Telosians, they do a lot of stuff, I think, wrongly. And but anyway, I won't get into it. But yeah, they show clips from The Cage, clips from the Menagerie, actually The Cage, not the Menagerie, and the Star Trek's first pilot that wasn't accepted. And it was just weird, man. The whole thing was weird. It was weird. And they do a cut from Jeffrey Hunter as Pike to Anson Mount as Pike. And I'm like, it was very weird and jarring. like Anson Mount has never worn the costume, the uniform that Jeffrey Hunter was wearing in The Cage. You've never seen that. So it was weird. I mean, it was just bizarre. I don't know who made that choice, but it was very odd. Let's see. Jeff T says, Rob, not only do I find it sad that physical media is dying out, I find it superb. I find that superb special DVD features like those you've done to be dead or dying too. Well, I'll tell you, I guess the interest isn't worth the cost. You know, here's the thing, and they found out, I'll tell you something that really pissed me off. So as many of you know, I did a 3-hour documentary on the making of Superman, the movie, Superman Returns, called Requiem for Krypton. And I was in Australia shooting the production of that film for 10 and a half months. I was in Sydney. And I thought we were going to have a 3-disc set and that we would be able to do 6 hours of documentary material. Like, for instance, I had shot Guy Dias, the production designer, who I dearly love, taking me on a tour of all the sets they built. I wanted to do an all Guy Dias set tour. Well, we never got to do that because Walmart, which at the time sold 45% of all the discs that were sold in the world, and it was a huge number. DVD was huge. So they could dictate terms, and they said, look, we don't want a 3-disc Superman Returns set. We give us a special edition, and then also give us a vanilla only, meaning a movie only version of Superman Returns that we can sell to consumers at what's called a loss leader. So what they do is they sell it cheap, so they get people to come in. They'll sell it at a loss, and what they do is they get people to come in to buy buy Superman Returns for $5. And they get you into the store, so you presumably will buy other things. Well, that was disappointing. So our documentary was only 3 hours. I could have made a 6-hour documentary, but we couldn't do that. But what was even more disheartening is that ultimately the vanilla only disc of Superman Returns outsold the special edition 8-2. So for every 8 people that bought the vanilla only single disc without my documentary, only 2 people spent the extra money for the special edition. So 20%, only 20% of the people that were buying Superman Returns on home video bought my special edition. And the studio spent $1 million with me and my company for the 2 years we were making this for me to be able to do that. And then I also worked for other divisions shooting other things. And it was very disheartening. And you realize that ultimately the reason special features died out is because only 20% of the audience are even interested in them. And they thought at first DVDs were the one of the most explosive and fastest selling home entertainment consumer electronics products ever manufactured. And they thought that DVDs, part of the appeal was all the extra material that they would put on them. which was something that developed in the early aughts. I mean, it was people like Michael Pellerin, who I worked for, and myself, Charlie de Lauzarica, and a lot of other people that worked on Dave Carson. There's just a lot of Greg Carson, pardon me. A lot of great people were making incredible special features, and they all fell by the wayside because they realized there was really no money in it, that there was no proof that special features added value or was worth the extra money to spend, that consumers were just not that interested in special features, which really bums me out because I made a good living doing that for about 15 years. So Jeff T, yes, I too am sad about that. Kaleda says, isn't it a good thing that Stark and Cap are the good guys? Also, Stark made it. I don't know what you're referring to. Kaleda says, I know if Goose goes full Flurkin, but I'm not saying. That's good. Don't say that. No spoilers. Keep this as a spoiler-free zone. Brian Eng says, did Schnepp say he wanted to see the movie version of High Evolutionary or Supreme Intelligence? Yeah, he did. He said that to me before. Schnepp wanted to hear it all and see it all. Pre-live teaser says, Rob, I heard that Francis Ford Coppola mentored George Lucas. That's true. If so, do you think Francis should be acknowledged as well? Well, they had a long association together. I believe that Francis Ford Coppola was a producer on THX 1138, which was George Lucas's first feature film that Warner Brothers released. I mean, they were forming a company called American Zoetrope, and which didn't really work out. By the way, I heard some really interesting things. I'm gonna drop something that I was told on this. Well, maybe I can't. Well, let's just say this. I've heard that there might be a 4K version of Apocalypse Now coming out. And not only is there a 4K version, there's a new cut, perhaps. But you didn't hear that from me. Don't tell anybody. I can't wait if that's true, because Lionsgate did a tremendous job. And my boy Dustin Dean over at Lionsgate did a tremendous job putting out the box set of Apocalypse Now on Blu-ray. I highly recommend it. It's one of the greatest physical media packages that exists. It also includes Eleanor Coppola's essential documentary, Hearts of Darkness, A Filmmaker's Apocalypse, one of my favorite making of documentaries ever. It's incredible. Get that disc. Let's see. What do we got here? Topher Rocks. Oh, Topher Rocks says, watch the free Enterprise trailer on IMDb. Looked hilarious, Rob. Waiting for the Blu-ray version. Also, Captain Marvel tonight, and have a great weekend. I will enjoy Captain Marvel tonight. Topher Rocks, I am trying. This is the 20th anniversary of Free Enterprise. I'm working on getting some funding together and be able to make that happen. It's not an inexpensive proposition, but I will keep you informed. Yeah, because I'd love to see a 4K version. I actually want to do a whole new cut of Free Enterprise. The ultimate cut, the final cut. We'll come up with some cheeky, funny name. But yes, I hope to do that. Murray Reich asks, hey, Rob, where are your parents born? My parents are both from Seattle, Washington. They're both native Seattleites. But my mom, her family, the Schoenfelds, they immigrated. They started my grandfather and his grandfather. They had a furniture store business called Schoenfeld's Furniture that actually started in Tombstone, Arizona, the real Tombstone, and they were, I believe, German immigrants, German Jews that came over during the 1800s, and then they followed the gold rush as Schoenfeld's Furniture moved from Arizona to California, and then they stopped in Seattle, where there was a 10-story version of Schoenfeld's Furniture in Tacoma, Washington, and that was sort of the gateway to the Alaskan gold rush. So they followed the gold rush up, and so both my mom and then my dad's parents had jewelry stores in Washington State. So both my parents were born in Washington. Kellerton Sound says, did you ever watch the Coppola executive-produced 90s show First Wave made in the wake of the X-Files success? I did. I actually quite enjoyed it for a while for what it was. I did watch First Wave. I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. There was a lot of shows that came out in the wake of X-Files. That was one of them. And yes, Coppola exec producer. I remember that well. It didn't last that long, but I liked the show. But it lasted longer than I thought. Willow Yang says, I think you're still handsome. Thank you, Willow. After Captain Marvel, Shazam, Hellboy, Endgame, and others, you'll probably de-age to your 20s again after April. You know what? All I have to do is work out. I respond very well to workouts. My face thins out and I become matinee idol again. But then I can't drink. No more Rip with Robs. I might do a Rip with Rob. I might come back and do a late night Rip with Rob tonight and talk about Captain Marvel because that would be fun. Pre-live teacher says, I bet Gene Roddenberry would believe, or you probably would not believe we're still talking about the Cage. I know, right? Who would have thought that they did a sequel to the Cage? Who would have thought that? I mean, that's crazy that we have a sequel to the Cage. That is crazy, but there is. Vesna says there was only one trailer before Captain Marvel, and that was a teaser for Endgame. Well, that's good. So you already saw it, which is great. I love that everyone's seen Captain Marvel. It's so awesome. Victor Costa says, DVR Game of Thrones, Endgame is the priority. Also, if you have HBO, you probably also have their app so you can see that episode as many times as you want after Endgame is out of theaters. Yeah, you know, it's funny because I just think that the fact that we're getting that on the weekend, I mean, Game of Thrones drops on Sundays unless they change the day, and I will have already seen Endgame like 6 times. So I'm excited. Patrick Glenville says, did Denise Crosby's career ever recover from Pet Sematary? Well, she was famously in Deep Impact, and she starred in Trekkies 1 and Trekkies 2. Here's the story. If you guys don't know, when I was still married, I was in Trekkies 2. Denise Crosby came to my house and interviewed me. And if you have the DVD of Trekkies 2, there's a lot of me and my ex-wife in the special features, which makes me chuckle to no end. But yes, I don't know if Denise Crosby's career ever recovered, but she's great. Of course, I had a great time interviewing her for the Next Generation Blu-ray box set, and it was great that she came over to my house. And I love her to death. She's amazing. Pre-live teacher said, Rob, what's your favorite TV theme tunes? I love the Rockford Files, Moonlighting, and the Bionic Man. Those are good ones, but I'll tell you, Hawaii Five-O is one of my favorites. Star Trek and the Twilight Zone, obviously. The Prisoner is one of my favorites. And especially, if you haven't seen this, I've talked about the show before, UFO, Barry Gray's theme for UFO and Space 1999, amazing. Battlestar Galactica's theme. I love the original Galactica theme. $6 Million Man is so great with that dun 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 dun. Steve Austin, a man barely alive. That's a great theme. But Rockford Files is great too. But you know what? Hawaii Five-O and Mission Impossible, come on. It doesn't get much better than those themes. Those are both da, 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 and then of course Mission Impossible. I mean, that was great stuff. Great stuff. Dale M said, I had a couple of issues with Captain Marvel I didn't like, but so do all the movies. But she is such a badass, and I cannot wait to see her with all the Avengers in Endgame. Me too. I think it's great. If we see her, maybe she got dusted. No, I don't know. Joseph Eric says, hey, everyone just got back from work. Well, thanks for being here. How was work? I hope work was good for you. Dale M says, a few shots were not great, but overall the CG was good. Not great, but good. Yeah, I understand, because they're still, those Marvel movies are still, they're not sparing every expense. They're trying to make them on a budget. And this was a launch movie, so they had to keep it down. Pre-live teaser says, I like season 1 of Discovery, lots of new ideas, some which didn't work. However, overall interesting. That's good. I'm glad you liked it. I don't know. This season's all over the place for me. We'll have to see where it goes. I don't know. Apple Crow asks, with the death of special features on DVD, do you think that opens up a market for things like that, perhaps on YouTube, for those of us that love those background bits? Probably. Here's the thing. In order to do these special features, you have to get, there are rights issues involved. That's why a lot of these documentaries that are fan made, like the Psycho documentaries or the Nightmare on Elm Street documentaries that are made outside of the system, they have to rely on trailers, because you can use trailers, you can repurpose trailers. But if you're going to use footage of actors and things, you can run afoul of the various guilds like SAG, and it can be rough. And I see there's a lot of fan made trailers. There was a great fan-made trailer for American Werewolf in London. There was another great fan-made trailer for Excalibur that you can find. So I love doing it, but it takes a long time, and I've spent many hours recording people and interviewing people, which I love to do. But I think unfortunately the studios are not going to be paying for these documentaries anymore, and unless directors demand that it's done, because it's really director driven. Because if you're going to have somebody running around a set with a camera, the director has to like you in order to allow you to do that. But yeah, I think people are going to continue to make documentaries about their favorite movies. Why not? I think it's great. Look, I'm sorry, the last DVD or the last special features project that I really worked on was Star Trek, and it was a 3-year project, and I was fairly well paid, but it was Star Trek, so I really didn't care. But I had to live, of course. I had to buy Hot Toys figures. Right? Who were kidding? But I still think it's a viable thing that people want to do because they're great. I love watching documentaries about movies, and I'm sorry to see that industry go away, because I have a lot of friends, still great friends of mine, like Cliff Stevenson. If you haven't seen any of his work, he does a lot of work. He did some great work on the Hannibal discs, Brian Fuller's Hannibal series. Cliff Stevenson did some awesome documentaries, and he's continued. He's done documentaries on Rambo. I think he's working on the new Rambo now. I look forward to his work because I think it's work in its own right. It's filmmaking. I call us. We were all documentary auteurs. Charlie de Lazarica's work. If you guys don't have the Alien Anthology box set, you don't have the 5-disc Blade Runner box set, you should get them because they're worth getting, if only for Charlie's documentary. I'm obsessed with his documentary about Prometheus. He made a Prometheus documentary that's in the special edition of Prometheus. I don't love Prometheus, but I love his documentary. I've learned so much from Charlie's documentaries about filmmaking. And Patrick Glanville says Superman Returns was shite. The second half of that movie was diabolical, so bad. Well, Patrick, you're not the only person to express that sentiment. I have a very soft spot in that movie for that movie because obviously I was there through every moment of production, and I don't think it's as good as it should have been because they cut a lot out of it. They changed around a lot of that film in post, which is too bad. Stephen Ernest says the CGI enhanced version of THX 1138 is so bizarre. I agree. It's weird because there's all these great CGI shots, but I think it kind of works. It is weird that they did that, but I think it kind of works. It's kind of cool. I kind of enjoy it myself. Let's see. MSG Big Boss 77 says Andromeda needs either a remastering of its visual effects or the series could receive a reboot of sorts, I reckon. Yeah, I had some friends, my friend Zach and Ashley, who wrote X-Men First Class and Thor. They worked on that show. I have a soft spot for that show too. I thought there was some really interesting ideas in Andromeda that have been sort of pilfered. But yeah, I like that. That could be rebooted. Vesta says, many said that the first half of the movie was boring. Well, not for me, because I knew nothing about the Kree and the Skrulls, and I learned a lot during that period. See, me too. If you're a comic book fan, the Kree-Skrull War was a huge staple of Marvel Comics in the 80s, early 80s specifically. And I love the Kree and the Skrulls, and I love their conflict, and I can't wait to see all that stuff. I'm totally in. So bring it on. Celadon Sound says, I think the mixed reviews did wonders for my experience. I went in with lowered expectations and was blown away. See, isn't that the best? It's the best. I love when that happens. I think that's great. Pre-Life Teacher says, Lou Grade was the 1960s Kevin Feige. He created the Avengers, Danger Man, The Saint, Thunderbird, Space 1999. Well, he produced those, but Jerry Anderson created the Thunderbirds in Space 1999. Yes, but wasn't it Lord? He was a Lord, wasn't he? Lou Grade was a Lord Grade. But that's true. He was a producer and produced all those great 60s TV shows in the UK. He was a big dude. Yellow Flash says, Rob, have you seen the Rick and Morty episode featuring Jan Quadrant Vincent 15? Jan Quadrant Vincent. No. Somebody was telling me about that earlier today, that there's a Rick and Morty episode spoofing Jan Michael Vincent. No, but I have to see that. It's so weird that you said that. It's so funny. I had to live. I had to buy Hot Toys figures. Yes, Joseph, I had to. There's so many good. Look, man, people are getting the Thanos figure. I got to get that, man. I got to get that Thanos figure. I'm going to set him right up next to me with his Infinity Gauntlet rising up. I haven't even opened up my Iron Spider, but yeah, I got to do that. I want a Star Trek Wrath of Khan 4K, says Christian Stoleski. Yes, me too. Why they didn't release that, I don't know. I want a 4K War of the Worlds. I want a 4K Lawrence of Arabia. What's up? Not just the files. I know Jan Michael Vincent died. I know. It's sad. I'm going to go watch episodes of Airwolf. Anyway, yes. MSG Big Boss 77 says fan-made trailers, documentaries, and fan edits avoid all of that crap, though, RMB. Which fan-produced item out there do you personally like yourself, however? I really love Paul's documentary on American Werewolf in London. I thought that was great. And I believe they included it on the Blu-ray. But I don't think Universal paid for that documentary, although they might have bought it from him. It's a great documentary. My director of photography, Chuck Barbie, worked for Douglas Trumbull. He was actually a camera operator shooting the V'ger model for Star Trek The Motion Picture, but he worked on Douglas Trumbull's first feature film, Silent Running, and he made a great documentary during the filming of Silent Running. He shot himself, and it's on the Blu-ray. It was on I don't know if it was on the Laserdisc, but it's on the Blu-ray, and it's great stuff. It's great stuff. So check that documentary out. But I think my favorite, I love Hearts of Darkness, but now that The Abyss, is coming out in 4K, one of the best documentaries, and I don't know if they'll allow this on the Blu-ray. Maybe they can, because James Cameron's got that much clout. Under Pressure, Making the Abyss. If you guys haven't seen this documentary, maybe somebody put it up on YouTube. Oh boy. Talk about filmmaking at its finest. There's some crazy stuff in that documentary, and it's a wonder they even released it. Amazing. Haskell 420 is here. What's up, Haskell? Hello, my friend. Saw first Captain Marvel show last night. See it ASAP. Don't get spoiled. Loved it. A different type of MCU film. Agree on pacing for the first 25%. Opening Marvel logo. Priceless. Post-credit scene. Awesome. See? Everybody, Haskell, you and everybody else are digging Captain Marvel. I see it in mere hours. I can't wait. So I'm 6 hours away from my Captain Marvel experience. By the way, thanks for the super chat. And I think it's going to be great. I'm excited. I'm very excited. Vesta says, Robert, you have to see the opening Marvel logo. It was great and beautiful. That's what people keep saying. John Campia told me that. Nobody's told me what it is yet. Don't spoil it. I don't want to know. I can't wait. I love when they do that. I love when they had the 10, the Marvel 10 in front of Infinity War. I thought that was cool. Patrick Lanville says, Wrath of Khan is far and away the best Star Trek movie ever. Almost shed a tear when Spock died. Dude, I shed a tear. I didn't almost. I shed a tear. But yeah, Star Trek 2 is it's a great movie. It's not just a great Star Trek movie. It's a great movie. Film nerd Jamie says, fans complained Superman didn't punch things in Superman Returns. They then complained he punched too much in Man of Steel. Fans don't know what they want. They don't, but they know it when they see it. Yes, but I agree. I think the battle, the battle in Superman, Man of Steel is the best superhero fight. That's what it would look like. And the opening of Batman v Superman, when you see what was going on in that battle from Bruce Wayne's perspective, that's how frightening it would be. And it's, it was an extinction level event, and Superman saved the planet. So I don't know why people are always complaining about those kinds of things, but they are. I guess they are. Yes, you got it. Film nerd Jamie says that Abyss documentary is on YouTube. If it is, run, don't walk, go watch Under Pressure, Making the Abyss. It's one of the great DVD documentaries ever made. That's why I will not give up my Abyss DVD until I see the Blu-ray and it's on there. Celadon Sound says, Dale M, without giving spoilers to others, do you not think the Kree Skrull stuff could still be comic accurate and we were only told one small story in their saga? Probably. I would imagine that's true because it's a big story. Vesta says, Robert, do you think that in the Lord of the Rings series they will cast Cate Blanchett because Galadriel was live in that period and very powerful and Cate is ageless? Look, man, they got to get Kate and Hugo Weaving if they're going to do the second age. You gotta. Why wouldn't you want to do that? That would be so awesome. Even with de-aging technology, even though it's been, Fellowship of the Ring came out 18 years ago. But man, you gotta get them. Galadriel and Elrond have to come back. How cool would that be? I think they could do it. I think they might do it. Why would you want to recast those people? It'd be great. What a great tie-in. It's great. Haskell 420 says, Stileski, people who didn't like Man of Steel were thrown off by him not being truth, justice, and the American way out of the gate, but everyone forgets he was Superman for like 3 days. Totally agree. Totally agree with you. I mean, he was just now Superman, and he was dealing with an extinction level event from Kryptonians who wanted to kill every human being. So, yeah. Clayton George says, as far as the Kree Skrull things go, I just want to know if Secret Invasion is going to manifest in some form. That would blow minds. Yeah, but I don't want to find out that our favorite characters are Skrulls. It was cool in the comics, but then it kind of got weird. But anyway, somebody said I missed their super chat. I will go back up and see. I'm sorry for missing a super chat. I still haven't figured out. I can't get to the standard super chat window as much as I keep asking people. PCM SG Danny says, or do you pronounce that? PCM SG Danny says, Garrick is my favorite Star Trek character. As everyone knows, the great Andrew Robinson played Garrick in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. That, my friend, is an awesome. First of all, thank you for the super chat. That is an awesome statement. I love Garrick. I love how Garrick always was playing both sides against the middle. He played everything close to the vest, and the whole episodes when you meet in Auburn Tane and all that, and how Paul Dooley turned out to be his father. I mean, Garrick is one of the great characters ever on television. And if you guys want to watch a great Deep Space Nine clip, you can find it on YouTube. It's not a very long clip, but it's so great. And it's Quark, they're in Quark's bar, and Garrick is sitting with Quark, and they're talking about the Dominion War and whether the Federation, I think it's the Dominion War, not the Klingons, but the Dominion War, and they're talking, will the Federation save them? And Quark gives Garrick root beer to drink. And people say, best Deep Space Nine clip ever. It's great. I love Garrick. And Andrew Robinson, what a great actor. I mean, Deep Space Nine had some of the greatest character actors on that show. Mark Alamo was incredible. Jeff Combs as Weyoun was incredible. Salome Jens as the founder's leader is incredible. I mean, and then the whole regular cast. There's so many great character actors on that show. So, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think Garrick is one of the great Star Trek characters of all time. By the way, thanks for that super chat. I appreciate that. I have to go do some work. I've got to go work. I'm making a trailer for Skyfighter, a short trailer that's only 40 seconds long, and I'm going to go do that. Celadon Sound said, just watched Bohemian Rhapsody, really enjoyed it. Surprised by the Rotten Tomatoes 61% score. Did anyone ever see Freddie Mercury, The Great Pretender BBC documentary? I did the sound edit on that. I've seen that documentary, Celadon Sound. That's a good documentary. I really like that. Dale M says, hey, Rob just likes to talk with us, and he's not missing them on purpose. I need to figure out, I don't know why on this browser I can't just open the super chat windows. I don't understand why I can't. I haven't figured that out yet. So I have to go back up, and sometimes I miss them. So I apologize. Just like you did, just remind me and I'll go back. But yes, I got to go. I will end this chat. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to talk about Captain Marvel. I won't do a spoiler review, but I'll tell you what I thought. And yeah, so enjoy your Friday. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. If you haven't seen Captain Marvel, I look forward to everyone's reviews. And let's come back and let's have a spoiler-filled discussion maybe on Sunday. That could be fun. We should do that. So anyway, have a good afternoon. Thanks for being here. Thanks for all your support. Subscribe to the channel. Join my Patreon. Put your name on the list. Go to my website, theburnetwork.net. There's all kinds of stuff there that you can see that's on YouTube, but there's other stuff there as well. And put your name down, because I'm going to start sending out stuff to people that subscribe, and it's going to be great. And thank you again, and have a good Friday afternoon. Take care, everyone. Oh, don't forget, every person that you meet has a story to tell you haven't heard yet. All you have to do is listen. Thanks for being a part of this, the Post-Geek Singularity community.